Guys, thank you for being here. Is everybody having a good day? Okay, well, I'm gonna try to make it a lot better because I'm gonna give you guys steak. I believe the illustrious Dr. Barry should be joining us at some point in time. Because Dr. Barry is gonna be here, it sort of makes sense that we would do something like steak, but I thought, what can we possibly do with steak that is interesting? I thought it would be really cool to show you all of the things wrong that most people do with a steak, and then I'm going to show you how to fix all of those things. So when you cook steaks, and this goes for burger patties and chicken and all this other kind of stuff, when you cook that stuff at home, you can milk every last bit of flavor out of whatever cut of steak it is, or chicken or burger patty it is that you're about to make. This feels very odd to me to try to do these things wrong, but I'm going to do them wrong, and we're going to talk about why each one is wrong. First things first, this is the sacrificial steak. First of all, I trimmed a little bit too much fat off of it, so try to get the ones that have the fat on it, because even if you don't want to chew down the chunks of fat, cooking with that fat is pure flavor. It is wet and it is cold. Now, if I really wanted to go crazy with this doing it wrong thing, I would use a thin, like, aluminum pan that has no bulk. As soon as you put food in that, it sucks the heat right out of it and you start to boil whatever you're cooking. Couldn't bring myself to go quite that far. So I do have cast iron, but this is not preheated. This is a room temperature skillet. I'm gonna give it a little bit of a fair shake here. This is some homemade dry aged beef tallow. That's what I'm gonna use to cook it. You could use bacon grease, you could use anything. Fat into a cold pan, breaking my heart a little bit here, like a medium to medium low temperature. The steak, I'm not patting it dry. I didn't even let it come to room temperature. I'm just going to put some Redmond salt, and I'm not going to put enough, because steak is one of those things, if you do not season it properly, it just doesn't taste very good. A lot of people, I think, are afraid to season their steaks. It looks like a lot of salt, but as soon as you actually start to cook it and the steak absorbs a lot of the sodium, it's really not that much. So my fat is just starting to get a little soft and liquidy, so we're going to put a wet steak in a not hot pan. I put it in that pan and there's no sizzle, and I can feel my heart kind of fluttering a little right now, because if I was cooking this the way that I would want to cook this, and I do that, and I don't hear a sizzle, it comes right back out of the pan, and I go, nope, I didn't preheat that pan. So we're gonna start slowly boiling a steak. While it is beginning to cook, I'm gonna tell you about these beautiful ribeyes. All of these ribeyes are cut from a primal rib loin right next to each other cuts. These, I did not trim the fat. Now, if you're one of those people that has a hard time eating big chunks of fat like that, I'll get the prime rib loin, put it in my dry age fridge, and I cut steaks off of it as I need, and they just get more and more dry aged. Take that front hunk of fat, I'll cut that into little cubes, little squares, little strips, whatever you like. If you put that into an air fryer, 375 to 390 for about 13 to 15 minutes, salt it really well, you get these brown little crispy bits. It is fantastic, and it's a great way to up that fat macro. You can actually chop them up even smaller, and you can put them over top of the steak as a garnish when you serve it too. That's a really fun way. The next thing we're gonna do wrong is we're gonna flip this way too many times. It's starting to sizzle. I'm gonna start getting worried. Oh no, what if it's overcooking and burning? That's really bad. Back to these, they're going to be much better. So I salted these, not like make you want to spit it out salt, but I made sure they have plenty of salt on them. I sat them on a rack and I stuck that in the refrigerator uncovered yesterday. So these have sat uncovered in a refrigerator with salt on them, dry brining for anywhere from 12 to 24 hours is ideal. The first thing it's going to do is it's going to pull moisture out of the surface of the steak, and you're going to see moisture on the outside of the steak and gets damp looking. After it continues to sit there though, that water is a higher salinity than the moisture that is inside the steak, and because everything wants to come to a stasis, actually pulls that moisture and the sodium back into the meat, and it will distribute all the way through the meat. So you're seasoning not just the outside of the steak, but the inside of the steak. It also interacts with the proteins. So inside of raw meat, the two main proteins we're talking about are myosin and actin, and those proteins are all curled up around each other, and they're like these little knots of protein. When you introduce sodium, they start to relax. When you cook the steak, one, the proteins are more relaxed, so it's more tender, it's easier to chew. It also, because it is more tenderized, because those proteins have relaxed, it does not push as much moisture out of the steak, because when they cook under heat, they're more resistant to that heat and they don't tense up and bond so tightly. So you have a steak that's seasoned all the way through. it is more tender to chew, and it holds on to more of the juices on the inside, so you get a juicier, tender, better tasting steak. It's a really simple thing to do. I want steaks tomorrow. I'm gonna season them today, put them in the refrigerator, get 360-degree airflow, and that's also gonna help us with the crust on the outside of the steak. This poor thing over here is not gonna get crusted in any way, shape, or form because we're scared. We're flipping it again. Whew, that is a wretched looking steak. For a long time when I was first learning to cook, I was really afraid that I was gonna burn my steak. And when you get a really dark, almost dark mahogany brown heading towards, I'm afraid it's gonna get burnt, you might start thinking it's not gonna taste good. That's gonna taste burnt. The Maillard reaction, which is what's happening, the glucose that's actually within the meat fibers, that all caramelizes, it's why it turns brown. It turns into that amazing flavor that we've all come to expect. It's like if you go to a steak restaurant, if it's a good one, and you get that brown outer portion of that steak and it comes to the table, it tastes fantastic. But they're using a lot of fat, they're using a lot of salt, and they're getting, hopefully, those nice char marks, whether it's a grilled steak that has the dark lines, whether it's the brown because it's been done on a skillet or a flat top, however it is they're doing it, that Maillard reaction is creating flavor. That's what we're trying to achieve. You automatically boost all of those flavonoids, which is what your palate goes, I like that, and it sends that dopamine signal to your brain of, hey, let's feel good about this and let's do this again, right? Starting to get a little color on that side. I'm gonna keep flipping a little faster. I'm getting a little worried this is gonna start tasting good.
Can you talk about though, because I think this is important, the salting on high?
Yeah.
Versus, like, demonstrate how you should actually salt your steak.
You know, so I'm up here, I'm not down here. So if you salt your food like this, you're gonna get thick lines and spots of seasoning, and then you're gonna get bites of your food that have little to no seasoning, too much seasoning. Ever watch a chef in any kind of a restaurant kitchen that they know what they're doing? That chef seasons up here. Well, what does it matter? You're gonna cook it all together and eat it anyway. But if you taste something that's been seasoned from up high, and something that's been seasoned right here unevenly, side by side, you'll get every bite of this tastes basically the same and it's really good. This one over here, you get some bites that are good, some that are over seasoned, some that are under seasoned, and the experience of eating everything on your plate is a collective experience. It's not just this bite, just this bite. Your experience of a meal and what makes you happy to sit there and have your proper human diet meal is the collective experience of eating everything that's on that plate. Okay, that one's getting close to being done. So the other thing that I've done with these steaks that I'm trying to make better is they are dry on the outside from the dry brining. Even if you don't dry brine your steaks, really, really important to take something like a paper towel and pat them as dry as you can get them. Because if that outer surface is wet, that moisture immediately turns into steam. What it's gonna do is create a steam barrier between the surface of the meat and the surface of the pan you're cooking on. And it's gonna boil that outer layer of your steak. You're gonna struggle to get the crust on the outside that's gonna give you the flavor you're looking for. Big difference. I used to make that mistake a lot. And so I'd just take it out of the package, I'd slap it into a skillet, try to compensate by cranking the heat really, really high, and I'm not getting a good crust, but then I am getting spots that are burning, where you get like the high spots of the fat, things like that. Getting that dry surface makes it much easier to get a more even crust across your steak, and that way every bite has that really nice Maillard reaction. I love putting all kinds of stuff. So I'm gonna show you guys how you can butter baste it with the really nice steaks. This one over here, I've got some fresh ground pepper I'll sprinkle over it, but that's probably all I'm gonna do to it is salt and pepper, because a lot of times we are trying to keep things fairly simple. Depending on what sensitivities you may or may not have, you may not want things like herbs or garlic or, you know, any of these other kinds of things. And if you do like those things, it's really easy to incorporate and make a few subtle additions that blow through the roof on flavor. So this one over here, I'm not going to, but these here, I'm gonna show you guys how I do a really simple aromatic butter baste. And you can customize it with whatever you like. So if there's an herb you do like, there's an herb you don't like, there's a spice you do like, spice you don't like, cool. When you use pepper is a really important element of this. If you put pepper on the steak and then you put it into a properly preheated skillet, you're going to burn that pepper. You get a much more subtle flavor by waiting until you start butter basting the steak and adding your pepper then. Makes a big difference. This one over here, since I didn't put any pepper on it, we won't get the burnt flavor, but we're not gonna get very much goodness out of it either. A little pepper, and again, I'm up here, not down here, up here. And especially with seasonings like pepper, that's really important. Okay. So that's actually got even more color on it than I really was trying to get. That's because I'm using a cast iron skillet. If you're using an aluminum skillet, you won't even get that. Does anybody else here make steaks that look like that? It's okay if you do. Please don't be embarrassed.
I do.
Yeah.
Present.
A lot of people make steaks like this. I've been served steaks like this when I go to people's houses for dinner. There's nothing wrong with it. It's not that it's gonna taste that bad. It's just not particularly great. Uh-oh. Look at the man himself.
Hi, Dr. Barry.
How are you doing?
I'm good. I don't care if we have meat juice.
So you're here for the good part now.
All right.
I do have to tell you really quickly too, does any of you guys know why I started a YouTube channel? First of all, I used to be about 400 pounds, horrible metabolic issues. I had anxiety, I had depression. My dad sent me a video by a guy named Dr. Barry, and I learned about what keto and carnivore was. We started making a change in our lives. I've lost about 130 pounds. I've reversed anxiety, depression. My wife and I had the knowledge to say, no, I don't need medication. I need beef, butter, bacon, and eggs. And I need sunlight and I need movement. Without Dr. Barry doing what he does, I don't think I would be here. And I was watching a live stream, and Dr. Barry said, if you want to thank me, the best thing you can do is tell your friends and tell your neighbors and tell your family and help me spread the word about keto and carnivore. I owed so much of what I was doing to the work that he was doing, and I took him really seriously. And so I started a YouTube channel. It's why I do what I do. I have my life back and I get to be the man that my wife loves because of the work he does.
It's awesome, man. You took me seriously.
I did.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And how many people's lives have you impacted already? People you've never met are now on board with a proper human diet and have no idea that you were paying it forward.
That's right.
They just liked you because you're cool and enjoyable and interesting.
That's right. That's right.
Right.
It's all the craziness that works in my brain now. So.
Absolutely.
So I have to say just a huge thank you for everything you do.
It's my pleasure and my honor. And this is exactly why I do what I do, because of the effect you're having on these people's lives. So dude, you're doing it. You're rocking it.
All right, let's get a skillet preheated and I'm gonna.
Same.
All right. So this is a steak that this is a steak that has been done wrong. No preheating of the pan, did not season it ahead of time, did not dry the steak off, too low of a temperature, flipped it too many times, and now we're gonna do a steak the right way.
All right.
And I'm gonna let you tell me what you think back to back.
Love it. This looks like the steaks I cook at home. So
and that's all
I'll learn something.
These ribeyes have been dry brined, salted properly, set in a refrigerator, uncovered, 360-degree airflow for 24 hours. So the sodium has penetrated, relaxes those proteins, the myosin and the actin we were talking about, helps to unravel those protein bonds a little bit. That also means that when this cooks, it's not gonna push as much of the moisture out. So we're gonna get a juicier, tender, more flavored steak all the way through. And we're cooking in some dry aged beef fat that I made myself.
Nice.
And we were talking about those little crispy bits you can do from cutting that beef fat off the end. You can also, when you do that in the air fryer, take the liquid beef fat and pour it into a mason jar. That's how you do it. And that's basically free food.
Absolutely.
That's basically free food. So
Great nutrition.
That's what I'm looking for. I was afraid that I was gonna burn something. So I was flipping, checking. It is so tempting. I struggle with it too. We all wanted, oh, I wonder what it's doing. I wonder if it's okay. I wonder if it's overcooking, right? If you just take a deep breath and let the pan do what it's supposed to do and let that meat cook, it's gonna render the fat, it's gonna cook it perfectly, and it's gonna create that crust. We're also going to season this one properly when the time comes. How do you feel about some cultured butter basting on your steak?
I'm for it.
All right, this last Saturday I put out part of the dairy series, how to culture butter at home. Now you can do this with really expensive dairy or buy whatever the best quality cream is you can find. If you can't, do the best you can. But if you can find good quality cream, you can very simply culture it. It makes the flavor of the butter incredible. Now that is what the other side of the steak is supposed to look like. You guys will see that here in a second. Here's what I like to do with a steak like this. If you're gonna use something like black pepper, now's the time you start doing it, because when you've flipped the steak, this side up here is still hot. Still has beef fat on it, so it's gonna actually get the seasoning, but you're not gonna burn the pepper because it's not against the bottom of the skillet. And that's where it gets bitter on you, okay? So we'll do a little bit. I'm not gonna overdo it, but a little is nice. Medium rare.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
You don't want to be flipping it and poking at it, but you can take the tongs and you can put some pressure down on top of it and get good contact with the skillet.
So for those of us that want to mess with the steak, we're allowed to pat the steak.
Yes, you can pat the steak from the top.
Just don't poke it.
Don't poke it, and specifically, There should be no lateral movement, because if you're putting pressure down, all you're doing is making that contact with the base of the steak in the pan, gives you that really good crust. If you move it sideways, any of that crust that might still be partially attached to the pan that hasn't released yet, it gets pulled off. Pressure, great. Lifting, sliding, or flipping, not so good. This is one of those step it up to the next level things. You don't have to do this, but it's really nice. And if you watch someone like Gordon Ramsay cook a steak, this is what they're gonna do. You're gonna take a little bit of that butter and you get just the small amount of dairy solids that are left in there to caramelize. You get that nice nutty roasted flavor. I'm gonna use 1 garlic clove. If you're sensitive to garlic, leave it out. I've got a sprig of rosemary and a couple of sprigs of thyme, and it's just enough that it perfumes the butter. So I'm gonna crush with the back of my hand a garlic clove. I don't need to chop it. I don't need to make it small because then it can burn too quickly, but crushing it opens that up and it lets a few of those oils come out. The herbs will take care of themselves. The butter goes in with the steak once it's on the second side, and this could not be easier. Spoon, we're gonna add our garlic and the herbs into the butter. So the butter is going to start to fry the garlic and the herbs. We tilt the pan back towards us and you're just gonna spoon hot melted butter over top of your steak. There's nothing sexier than watching melted butter roll off steak, I'm telling you. So once I have done that to that side of the steak, it is thoroughly coated in melted butter. We can check the second side, which is just as beautiful as the first side.
Very nice.
Yes. Now I've done this a long time, so I can kind of poke at a steak and I can tell about how cooked it is. Ideally, I would suggest you go get yourself a meat probe thermometer. It's the easiest way to get a consistent result every single time. If you don't have one and you're in a pinch, if you hold your hand out and you poke right here between your thumb and first finger. This is like raw meat. If you touch to the tip of the first finger and thumb together, that's like blue rare. If you go to the second finger, that's more rare pushing towards medium rare. If you come to the ring finger, that's more of a medium to medium well. And if you go to the pinky, that's more of a well done. And if you make a fist, don't eat it. I'm like Emeril Lagasse. I don't like one-sided foods, so I'm gonna pepper the other side just a little bit. Oh, or the temperature of the skillet. So I'm like a medium high. You wanna be hot enough that it's not gonna lose all of the heat, but you want to make sure you're not so hot that it starts to burn on the outside before you get it to cook through. This is also a really thick steak. I don't know about you, I like my steaks thick, because it's much easier to get crust on the outside and keep it juicy and tender on the inside. And that's what I'm really going for. This one you'll notice is maybe cut a little bit thinner. Out of the 3, when I cut them, I decided to use that one as the sacrificial lamb over here. This one, probably almost 1.5 inches thick. It shrinks a little bit as it cooks as the fat renders out. That's about where I suggest you get your steaks cut. With ribeye, you get that nice fat that goes around the outside. This is not cooking the internal part of the steak anymore. I'm just browning and crisping up that fat that's on all sides. It's a really nice thing to have that browned, juicy fat on the outside. And if you're not gonna do the crispy fat bits that I was talking about, this is also really helpful on that hump of fat that sticks off the end of a rib. That's really, really nice to crisp that on the outside. So it's soft and rendered through, but then it's got that brown, crispy outer edge, which is really nice.
Now, Chris, for those of us who can't afford a 2-inch thick steak, you know those thin little truck stop steaks
Absolutely.
you can read the newspaper through? Is there any hope for doing that?
There is.
Properly?
There is. So what you would do is you would put that in a freezer and you would have that partial. Now, does that not look better, guys? Look at that. And look how tender it is, like it's falling apart because of the sodium that's in it, right? So I think you can tell which one of these is which.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, so you can take the really cheap steaks and you can freeze them 30 to 45 minutes, maybe an hour. So you dry brine it first. That's gonna help a lot. Then freeze for 30 to 45 minutes, get that pan nice and hot. And instead of letting it sit on the counter for an hour like I did to come to room temperature, you take it straight out of the freezer and you put it in that skillet, and it keeps that center from overcooking so much. Now you're not gonna get as good of a crust, but you will get a whole lot better than this, which is what those usually look like. And you can also use this technique on burger patties. So if you're on a burger budget, there you go.
We ready? Because I'm ready.
Go for it, my friend.
I'll tell you guys, I've been all over the world and eaten steak in many different countries. I have had many a steak at a 4- and 5-star restaurant. Not as good as that. Many steaks in restaurants with steak in the name, which you would think, they would do a good job. No, this is the way. This is how it's done. You guys need to try this.
Give the not so good one a shot and see if you can tell them what the difference is there too.
I'm not prejudiced. I'll try it. So it's still good, still meat, still steak, but this blows that away. And it took you how much extra time to go from a 4 out of 10 to a 9.9 out of 10 steak? So much extra time.
So I mean, we're talking 2 minutes to salt it yesterday, stick it in the refrigerator. I don't even think about it for 24 hours. 10 to 15 extra seconds to do the butter based. So I mean, you're talking 4 minutes difference.
That's worth 4 minutes, I promise.
I'm going to cook up a steak, and I'm sure maybe Dr. Barry might have some wisdom he could share about some stuff while I do so.
So a lot of people who are diagnosed with diabetes, they start cooking the recipes on the American Diabetes Association's website, and their diabetes doesn't get any better. In many cases, it actually gets worse. Me and a group of doctors who understand low carb and keto and carnivore got together and formed the American Diabetes Society, which now has a website, and we have over 100 recipes on the website. The weird thing about these recipes is when you cook them and eat them regularly, they actually help your diabetes get better, and in many cases go completely away. It's just AmericanDiabetesSociety.org. It's a nonprofit. I'm founder and on the board. Nobody makes any money except our social media person, who just, that's her job, so she gets paid, but none of the board members take a salary or get any kind of perks at all. We're all doing this out of charity to help make the world a healthier place and to give people the correct information if they have prediabetes or type 1 or type 2 diabetes or LADA or MOD1. So the American Diabetes Society.org. If you can donate $1 or $5 or $10, we'd appreciate it. Feel free to share the website on your social media. I'm sure you've got a friend or two with diabetes who currently believes that the association is giving them good information, but when they find out about the society, they're going to say, oh, okay. So when I eat this way, I can actually use less medication and have a lower risk of having complications from the diabetes. AmericanDiabetesSociety.org. Let's eat.
Let's do it. If I can teach you to do this for your own family, so you can do this for yourself and you can do this for your family, and you can go, I love my family and we deserve not just good health, but good flavor along the way. That's how you do it. And that's not compromising on the ingredients of, well, I want something to taste good, but I just can't do steak and eggs. It's just driving me crazy. I'm just gonna go get a pizza. That sounds really good. Don't do that. Do that with your steak and make it incredible. And if you really need something other than steak, I have a whole bunch of recipes that are a lot less far off the reservation than going to Domino's. We've talked about that whole ancestrally appropriate thing, and we talk about tribes and how humans live and work together in a small community. If you cook for somebody, you are giving away resources that could be used for you to somebody else to show them you cared.
Yep.
And if you take a lot of extra time to make it the best it can be, that's an even higher level of not only am I sharing my resources, I want to share the best of what I have with you. And I think, if you look at like the biblical principle of,
I was just about to say,
eating together,
multiple examples in
feeding,
scripture.
Yes.
When you bring people together you love, you don't feed them the truck stop steak.
That's right.
Right? You go all out with the fatty calf and the fatty lamb, and you just put on the dog, as we say here in Tennessee.
That's it.
And that's how you show that you care.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. So I try to do that with every single meal that I make for every person that I cook for, because it's my job to love people and teach people about how to make great food and how to live keto and carnivore and love the lifestyle. And that's what I do.
Isn't that pretty? Yeah.
Man, I did nail that steak today.
That's a really good steak.